So now that we have that content placed inside our layout, let's jump to page 1 here in the Pages panel and talk about using transparency effects inside of your layout. Now, previous versions of InDesign had several transparency options, including drop shadows, feathers, blend modes, and transparency. And new in InDesign CS3, we've taken that even further with a whole slew of new transparency effects. So let's get started by selecting this graphic here towards the bottom of the page and looking at new ways to add drop shadows to your layout. Drop shadows are normally accessed in the Object menu. We can choose Object, Effects. You can see drop shadows as well as all of the other new effects, including inner shadow, outer glow, inner glow, bevel emboss, and all sorts of other cool feather effects. Now, you can always access these effects in the Object Effects menu, but I think the easiest way to access them is right here in the Control panel. For example, with a single click, you can turn on the drop shadow. Now, if you look at this example, it's a little overboard. So we want to back that off and edit it a little bit. So right next to the drop shadow option, click the FX pull down and we'll choose drop shadow, and here we can actually change the attributes of the drop shadow on that bit of artwork. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to change the opacity of the drop shadow. It's really a little bit too dark. So instead of 75%, I'll type in 45%. And in terms of distance, the offset is a little too obvious. So let's make this a little bit more subtle. Let's make it like 4 points. So that should be a little bit more reasonable. But you'll notice down here that it's actually not updating inside of my layout. So what we need to do is turn on preview, so as we make these changes, the edits are instantaneously obvious. Now, the last setting that I want to adjust here is the noise value. I recommend setting this at about 3 or 4%. It just adds a little bit of noise and makes your shadows look a little bit more realistic and not so fake and plasticky. Okay, so I'm done adding that effect, and I'll just click OK. So it's a nice, simple drop shadow on that bit of artwork. Now I'm going to zoom in by pressing Command or Control 2 to zoom to 200%. You can see the shadow there. Now I'd like to take that same shadow and use it with 100% consistency on the logo here at the bottom. So to do that, all I have to do is click the Effects panel here on the right hand side. I can see the FX icon indicating that I have an effect on that frame, and now I just click and drag that to the logo to apply the same drop shadow. So I'll close the Effects panel and press Command or Control 0 to fit the document in the window, and we want to apply another kind of new transparency effect. Specifically, I'll select this large museum photograph here at the top of the page, and I'll click the Effects panel, and here from the bottom of the panel, I'll choose the new gradient feather. This is one of my favorite new features inside of InDesign. Now, you can see what's going on here behind the scenes. Make sure that preview is turned on so that you can see the results. And I might slide this over to the side so we can see in real time what's going on here. The first thing I want to do is I want to change the angle here to negative 90 degrees so that the gradient will actually go from the top down to the bottom and gently fade out. I'd also like to make sure that the fade out doesn't go over the entire image, but just kind of fades out right there at the bottom. So to achieve that, I'll come up here to the gradient stops, grab this slider, and I'll slide this all the way down to the end. Actually, the maximum value that you can choose is 87%. So I'll slide that all the way to the end, and you can see that nice gradient feather right there at the bottom. When I'm done, I'll click OK to see the results. So it's starting to take shape, and I like that effect so much that I'm inclined to save that as an object style that I might use again in the future. So to do that, I just come over here to the right-hand side of my screen, grab the Object Styles panel, and click the New button. But instead of just clicking New, I'll press the Option key or hold Alt on Windows, and here I can name the style and choose some important options. I'll name this style Fade Out. I'll come over here to the left-hand side and disable the fill and stroke options because I don't want those attributes to be a part of this style. But what is important to me is the gradient feather effect is locked in here at 90%, just like I want. When I'm ready, I'll click OK. So you see here in the Object Styles panel that I have that fade out effect, and we'll use that again in a moment. Now on top of this photograph, I want to add another frame. So I'll come over here to the toolbar and grab the Rectangle Frame tool and just draw a rectangular frame right on top of the right side of that image. And using the swatches panel, I'm going to apply this solid blue swatch. And because I want it to match that same fade out effect of the photograph underneath it, I'll switch back to object styles and apply the fade out effect. So you can see the fade out applying to both images. The only other thing that I want to change is I want to actually be able to see through this blue frame. So to achieve that effect, I'll go to the effects panel, and here in the blending mode pull down menu, I'll just choose multiply, and you can see that artwork emerge from beneath. Now let's just use this fade out style in a few more locations by jumping to the Pages panel. We'll jump to page 2 and we'll choose File, Place, and I'm going to select the left column INDS file. That's the left column InDesign snippet that's inside your Lesson 1 folder, and that will create for us a little bit of page geometry for the left-hand side of the page. So I'll press Option or Alt on Windows and click to make sure that that is placed in the correct location. And with this frame selected, you can see that it already has the fade out object style applied. So when I choose File, Place, go to the Images folder inside of Lesson 1 and select the entrance.psd file and place that inside my layout, I'll go ahead and click OK and accept the default image import options. It automatically fits and has that nice feathered effect there on the bottom. So it's shaping up pretty nicely. Just a few more things to change. I'll place another Illustrator file in this frame, choosing File, Place. This time I'm going to select the date.ai file so that everybody knows when to attend our event. Click Open. Make sure we have the artboard selected here for the crop value. And click OK. Oh, it's definitely way too large. Hopefully by now you remember how to address that. Again, we'll come up here to the frame fitting options and choose Fit Content Proportionally. It fits perfectly, matches up very, very nicely. The last graphical element we'll add to this document is a simple line. So we'll select the Line tool here in the toolbar. I'm going to set the stroke value to 0.5 points, so that's just half a point. I'll start up here at the top of the document to make sure we're taking advantage of our entire bleed area. Make sure it's right in the center of the page, which is at 15 picas, and I'll just click and drag all the way down, about 3/4 of the way down the page, and I'm also going to hold the Shift key to make sure that that's a perfectly vertical line with no angle to it. I'll let go of that, and before I'm done, I want to apply the fade out object style again, but instead of using the panels to apply the style, I'm going to use the expanded quick apply feature. So just press Command Return or Control Return on Windows, and you can start typing the name of the style or the menu command that you want to run and just press Return. So it applies that effect. I'll deselect everything by choosing Edit, Deselect All, and you can see that nice subtle fade there.